The Pledge of Allegiance. If you can join me. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. As usual, we always have a membership drive. If anybody knows anybody that might be interested in something like this, cares to join our group, you can go over to the table where the sign-in was and let Julie over there know. We'd be happy to have new people as members, help out, bring us ideas. A couple general things. Again, the restrooms are over here. If anybody wants, there's coffee, water anyway, and afterwards, there's more goodies in the back, bakeless bake sale kind of a thing. Next month, our meeting would be on May 19th, which is the same day as primary voting. So I'll give you two indications for that one now. June 16th would be our following meeting at that. We don't really have a plan for next month yet. We'll see what's going to be going on because of the primary voting. June 16th, we had invited Shane Pepe from Emmaus. He's our Emmaus Borough Manager, to come and do basically the same thing, a state of Emmaus. Lots of stuff going on. They bought the old former Rodale facilities. They want to move everything down there, so it's a big thing going on in the town, and probably be good to understand what they're doing that way. And then also, June 21st, which is that weekend, Sunday, is Community Days here in Emmaus. And that's also our picnic. So we kind of coordinate that with them. Lots of people coming. We'll invite all our elected officials to come out. Hopefully they'll come. Usually they do have a good showing that way too, so you can come out there and visit and talk with them. Local issues, again, the burying of hazardous waste at the West Coastville Elementary School, that's still an ongoing thing. The other thing they have is an SRO, school resource officer. They just talked about this past meeting, which would be basically having a police officer from the borough stationed in the high school full-time. Whatever your thoughts are on that, that's the latest thing that they're talking about. Seems to be up in the air one way or the other for all the other board members too. And we do have one board member right here from the school district. If you need to nail her for something, there she is. Again here, the primary election day, that is Tuesday, May 19th, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So pay attention to what's going on, be involved, and vote. And also tonight is a special night. Besides having the commissioners here talking about the state of the county, we have a beloved CEPTA member and a very close friend. She's in the back, Josephine Sadrovitz. And we're going to have like a celebration for her at the end. We have sheet cake and everything here. And you're all welcome to join in. She will be leaving Emmaus, going down with family in Florida. So this will be her last CEPTA meeting until she comes back to visit. So we are very thankful for everything she and her husband has done for this town. So afterwards, we'll have a celebration for that. And okay, that's enough of me talking. Now I'd like to have you all, a round of applause for our main speakers here, our county commissioners. There's a man. They're Mike Schwer, Amanda Holt, Dick Mazziotti, and Brad Osborne. And I'm going to hand it over to them now. Ready to start?
Okay, thank you, John. And I'd like to thank CEPTA for inviting us here this evening, and everyone for coming out to learn a little bit more about your county government. It's this kind of forum, I think, that makes county government and any local government at any level, most effective. And that's when your government officials appear before you, listen to what you have to say, answer your questions, and of course, get your input. So along with my fellow commissioners, Vic Mazziotti, Amanda Holt, and Mike Schwer, we'd like to thank you. I'd also like to recognize our county executive, who is in the back, Tom Muller, and county commissioner candidate, Marty Nosign, our Olympic gold medalist, with us tonight. Tonight, what we have for you this evening, in addition to getting to know us a little bit more, is a briefing on the structure of Lehigh County government, how the Board of Commissioners does its work, and some of the successes that we've enjoyed in terms of legislation, and a look into the future as far as what we plan and what we can see as far as the landscape goes. I'd also like to invite everyone, please jump in at any time. We'd like this to be a conversation and not a presentation that's stiff. So anytime that you have a question that jumps into your mind, if I could ask you to please go to the back where the microphone is so that we can get it recorded and also that we can hear. All right, I'll put this closer to my mouth. Okay, with that, I'd like to start by just introducing a little bit about Lehigh County government. Lehigh County government is one of 5 home rule governments in the state of Pennsylvania. So coincidentally, the county to our east, Northampton County, is also home rule. So everything that you hear in the newspaper, read the newspaper, or any of the media, you would think that's the way local government, county government is conducted throughout the state. It's not quite the case. There's 67 counties, only 5 of them are home rule, the rest are not. So what you're hearing tonight is the structure of Lehigh County government as it affects you and how it's different from other county governments in the state itself. What we have, and it's on purpose by design, we have the residents at the top, because a good government is always one who puts the residents at the top. You are the people that we serve, and you are the people who we need to listen to. It's the way government functions best, and as elected officials, we always think that way. So please take every opportunity to remember this graph. You are at the top. We are here to serve you as elected officials. Lehigh County government, we have the county executive, the Board of Commissioners, the courts, and elected officials. And I'd like to just go briefly through those different divisions of our government so that you understand everyone who is on the ballot every 4 years and how they affect your lives. Okay, in addition to the executive and the Board of Commissioners, we also have a district attorney, the sheriff, coroner, controller, and clerk of judicial records. You could also think of the judges in Lehigh County as also being elected officials. They're on a different electoral cycle and affect our lives in different ways. Hopefully most of us don't appear before them in that regard. But there is a full set of elected officials here to serve the public in different factions, and I'd like to go through them just a little bit. First, what are the duties and powers of the county executive? Your Lehigh County government is set up in 2 different branches, one being the executive branch, the other being the legislative branch, which is the Board of Commissioners. And we have different and distinct roles and powers. And as we interact with each other is how you, as residents, are governed as a whole. So the first responsibility of the county executive is to supervise and direct the internal organization. In other words, he's the manager. Executive is the manager of the internal organization. Basically, manages the day-to-day operation. Appoints and directs all county employees in the same fashion that you would as a company. You hire, fire, and have that responsibility and power to do that. Execute and enforce legislative action taken by the board. It is the duty of the executive to enforce all legislation that is lawfully passed by our board. And that is done at any time by a majority of vote, the 9 commissioners, so any 5 votes would pass legislation. One of the major responsibilities, powers actually, of the county executive is the one that we often hear about, and that is the responsibility and power to prepare the budget, both the operating budget and the capital budget. All legislation, it is also the power and responsibility of the executive to make sure that those laws are executed and enforced. recommend matters for legislation, and this happens very often. Most of the legislation in front of the commissioners is actually originated from the executive branch, and it goes hand in hand with responsibilities and foresight, let's say, of that branch of government. What legislation is necessary to carry on the duties of the government has to go before a board, but it's often initiated by the executive branch. Now the Board of Commissioners, the one that's very important. As the executive enacts and enforces all the laws, we create them. That's your legislative branch of government in Lehigh County. We're served by 9 commissioners, 4 of us are here this evening, and it's our board that enacts, amends, and repeals, has the ability to repeal an existing ordinance and resolutions. We make appropriations. We are the ones who authorize debt. No debt occurs in Lehigh County without our authority, without our blessing. And we adopt, or as is sometimes the case, modify the budgets that are presented to us by the executive. And those budgets come in the form, as I said before, operating budgets and also capital budgets. We levy taxes. The last 3 years, I'm sure that you know that we've reduced taxes twice, 1 tax rebate, and that is one of the authorities and actually responsibilities of our board. We actually, the Board of Commissioners, actually holds the purse strings. We are responsible for assessments, and in this case, property value assessments. As you might know, a couple years ago, the county had undergone a reassessment, which hit a lot of property owners very hard. But it is the role and authority of the Board of Commissioners to do that. We also, any service charges which might accompany any of the services that are provided by the county, those are also from the authority of the Board of Commissioners. We establish salaries and wages. So all salaries and wage structures in Lehigh County, including those of the bargaining units, are set. In the case of the bargaining units, through negotiation, but are set by the Board of Commissioners. We are ruled by the administrative code, and the responsibility of the commissioners is to adopt and amend that code, setting forth plans for organization and administration of county government. It is so vital that we understand and play by the rules of the administrative code. That code is set by the Board of Commissioners. We appoint or confirm officers and certain employees, and I'll give you some examples of that. Just recently, the administrator out at Cedarbrook is an appointed employee. The appointment is made by the executive, needs to be confirmed by the Board of Commissioners. Several of the officer positions in the executive's cabinet also falls under that same realm. The director of administration needs to be confirmed by the Board of Commissioners. The director of nursing at Cedarbrook has to be confirmed by the Board of Commissioners. So the appointment is made by the executive branch, must be confirmed by the Board of Commissioners. Once that confirmation is made, we then have no longer have any ability to do anything with the as far as removing that person from the position or any other regard. We just confirm that person into the position. We authorize studies, audits, inquiries, investigations. Board of Commissioners has the power of subpoena. We also have the power to commission studies, and we'll hear a little bit about one study that we have undertaken here recently. It's a very powerful and sometimes necessary authority that the Board of Commissioners has, and when we perform our job well, we can actually affect a lot of change. We adopt purchasing procedures and personnel code, and we'll be talking a little bit tonight about a change in purchasing procedures that the Board of Commissioners is entertaining at this point in time. We establish, combine, and dissolve agencies. I'll give you a couple examples. Lehigh County Authority, that's an agency created by the Board of Commissioners. The Planning Commission is also something that, in joint venture with Northampton County, is an outreach of Lehigh County itself, and it's also a birth of the Board of Commissioners. Those are two examples of where we have the ability to create agencies. We also have the ability to dissolve them. Now, what I'd like to do is just leave you with this thought before I turn it over to Amanda, and mention that of the roles and responsibilities of the executive and that of the Board of Commissioners. My opinion is that when you have a highly functioning Board of Commissioners, you have a true checks and balances. The executive administers the policies presented by the board as a board of 9, when we act within our authority and we're highly functioning, that is the time when we serve as a true checks and balances for the executive branch of the government. Very similar to our federal government. I'll also say, though, that I think the best government is one where you have the executive and the Board of Commissioners on the same page, moving in the same direction, so that we can make progress for the citizens without any disharmony. Now, moving in a little bit into the structure, there's 9 Board of Commissioners. Myself, Amanda, and Vic are at-large commissioners, as we're called, so we represent the county as a whole. There's 4 at-large commissioners, there's 5 district commissioners. Commissioner Mike Schwer is a district commissioner, and we'll show you where his territory is. And the reason for that is to make sure that each segment area of the county is represented fairly on the Board of Commissioners. So up in the northwest quadrant, we have District 1. That's, as you can see, it's a fairly large area, and that area is covered by Commissioner Tom Creighton. District 2, right here, let's call it Mid-County. Commissioner Doherty is the one who represents District 2. District 3 up there, in that corner there, that's Commissioner Jones. District 4, very small segment there where you see Allentown, that's Commissioner Brace. And then District 5, Commissioner Schwer's area, is this fairly large area, which includes right where we are this evening. So with that, I'd like to turn the presentation over to Amanda, and she will share with you how the Board of Commissioners we get our work done.
So when things come before the Board of Commissioners, they typically go through a committee. If I just press this, will it go? Oh, down here. Technical instructions. Okay, so there are 8. Can you see over me, or do I need to pull a chair over? I know I'm a little taller, so I don't want to block anyone's view. There are 8 committees that the commissioners are divided between. The chair doesn't serve on any of the committees per se, and the other 8 commissioners each chair one of the committees and serve as vice chair on another one, and then are a member of 2 other committees. So we have the 8 different committees, and they somewhat mirror the departments that are in the county. And I just thought I would give you, as we go through these, some of the sort of legislative highlights of things we've done this past year to show you the variety of matters that come before the Board of Commissioners. It's never dull. You can see a whole host of things come before you in the course of one night. And if you have any questions as we go along, just pop up and ask your question. So the first committee I'll mention is the Administrative Committee. And one thing we looked at that came before the board this past year was the contract for information technology services at the county. We contract out that service. And one of the things that we did in looking to approve that contract was include language that would require a strategic plan to be developed. And that was presented to the board in October. And we recently received, I think, an update in January regarding how that's going. And there's some significant changes in information technology going on when we get to the capital projects that I'll mention that are going on at the county. But that's one thing that we came before us. Another thing was establishing policy for unpaid leave time in the pension system that came to the attention. There's within the pension law, there's certain unpaid leave time that employees can buy back, and it's the policy that governs that is something that's set by the county, and then there's some that's set by other entities like the state or the federal government. So the ones that were set by the county, there wasn't any policy currently in place at the county, it was noted, and so we needed to create one. So that's one thing that we did in August. We also, it came before us to amend a section of the administrative code. This related to understanding conflicts of interest in council that came before the board. It was an issue that was brought up during the debate over the TIF project in Lower Macungie Township, in which two attorneys from the same firm were representing different sides. And so they wanted to put a policy in place just to make it clear that that information should be noted and that the entity should be made aware that the firm was representing both sides. So this was something the solicitor brought before us to look at and approve. Are there any questions about the administrative committee? I know this can sound kind of maybe dull and dry, but the Cedarbrook Committee obviously covers things related to Cedarbrook. And one thing that we looked at was a CHR report. CHR is the Complete Healthcare Resources Company, and they provided an operational assessment report to the county. And the county was able to use the information provided in the report to improve revenue, reduce expenses while maintaining services. A lot of professional services agreements come before the board related to the Cedarbrook Committee. We can look at things like food services, hospice care, wound care, hospital, transportation, all that kind of thing. All comes before the board if the contract is over $10,000. And there was also the formation of the Cedarbrook Advisory Team. Would you like to come comment about that, or?
I can do it now if you want. Yeah, hello. Got a bit of a cold, as maybe you can tell. I'm not sure if I'm winning or losing. I think it's a tie at the moment, but I don't feel as bad as I sound. The Cedarbrook is a very important organization in the county. And when we get to budgets, you'll see it's one of the biggest budgets in the county. It's over $60 million a year. And I think given the nature of the governmental and the political process, I think there's a tendency to make decisions on a year-to-year basis. And I think when you do that, you're kind of letting the budget process drive strategy. And what we realized is that what we need to do is to create a strategy that can drive the budget process. And that's the role of this committee. As Amanda mentioned, there was a report by Complete Healthcare. They recommended a number of options. And so we've put together a committee of volunteers, very respectable, experienced volunteers. And they're now in the process of looking at the options, coming back to us with a recommendation. It will still be the board's responsibility to accept that recommendation or modify it. But we're looking for some help and some direction in that regard. And the easy thing to do is to just deal with it year to year. So the county's had years when we made a little money in Cedarbrook, and that money went into the general fund. And in years when we have to subsidize Cedarbrook, money came out of the general fund to subsidize it. That's not really a strategy. That's just kind of a budgetary process. So that's the purpose of this committee. And we can talk about that later if you like, but I don't want to take too much time. You want to continue?
All right. No questions yet. Wow. Okay. Oh, yeah, question.
Who chairs this committee and the administrative committee?
Excellent question. The administrative committee is chaired by Commissioner Doherty, And the Cedarburg Committee is chaired by Commissioner Mazziotti, who was right here speaking about the, that's why I referred to him, because he knows more. And I'll actually be referring to the next committee we're looking at is the Development Committee. I'll be looking to Mike Schwer here to come comment about this one, because this is the committee that he chairs, and he understands these things, the things that come before his committee far better than I do. A lot of what comes before the Development Committee relates to economic development and different things like that that are going on in the county, and a lot of grant money comes through the Development Committee. So would you like to mention something?
Sure, I'll just hit on the two things that are up there. The CDBG money for pretty much everyone in the county, except for the city of Allentown. The applications go through the county administration. They have a process for getting the different projects together and getting the input from the local governments as far as what projects might be funded by the annual community development block grant from the federal government. And then we go about allocating those funds based on what's submitted to us. Similarly, you have the gaming grant money. There's two different pools of money, the slots and the table games money. And that is allocated usually once a year in the beginning of the year, where different municipalities can make grant applications for that money based, and we try to tie it in the county based on something that's an effect related to gambling. In other words, if they have increased police activity or something, they could apply for a grant for something for their police department, but they have to kind of show a need. So that's two of the things that are up there that the Development Committee deals with.
Yes.
Who decides how the grant money is given out? Does that come down from the state or from where?
Basically, I think we get the annual allocation for the CDBG grant. That comes from the federal government as far as what's there to do. As far as the gaming grants, that's again based on the volume of business they generate over at the casino, and then our cuts determined. The county gets a certain amount that's just for them, but then there's another portion that comes from the table games that's to be allocated out to the municipalities, and another portion for the slots. And again, that amount changes every year, those two amounts. Sure.
Okay. Now I'll ask that if everyone could wait until we get a microphone, and then we film this for other people so they can hear it also. We're not complaining or anything, just it's tough to figure out. Amanda, you're doing a bang-up job. Thank you.
Did I miss, what is the CDBG grants?
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's the Community Development Block Grant, and that's a federal program.
I'm also a mic runner in my spare time.
Yes, my question is, before the gaming grant program came through, I think most people in this state think there's a couple sitting out in Harrisburg by the name of Mr. and Mrs. Grant with a checkbook. Where does the grant money come from before this program came? Where does the grant money come from?
It comes from the taxpayer. You mean specifically the gaming grants, or the?
No. Before this grant program came through, where does the grant money come from? When they go, we're going to give you a grant, putting trees up in Broad Street,
Sure.
or whatever. Where does the grant money come from?
It's coming from the taxpayers, whether federal taxpayers, state taxpayers, or sometimes local taxpayers.
But why do we have? Well, that's another day. Here you go. It's pathetic, but here.
No other questions about that one? Okay, I can rest now. Whoops, wrong button. been so long since I clicked, I forgot how. Okay, the General Services Committee. This is the committee that I chair. One thing that we looked at was the agreements to provide 911 fund management. That's something that comes up fairly often, things related to 911, and at the end we'll be talking more about that. The architectural and engineering agreements come before the General Services Committee. General Services is what maintains a lot of the building structures and makes sure everything looks fantastic at the county and that the buildings are kept maintained. So these architectural and engineering agreements help facilitate that. All the parks, all that sort of thing comes under the General Services Committee. And I'll mention one thing that's not on here. There was 2 meetings ago here at CEPTA, there was the discussion regarding firearms. And one of the things talked about that meeting kind of perked my attention because it had just come before the Board of Commissioners. There was a change made to the state law regarding how the limitations that should be placed on what counties could do in regulating firearms and ammunition. And that was in Title 18, Section 6120. And the change in state law meant that one policy that was on the county books needed to be changed to comply with state law. So this is something that comes before the board from time to time. When there are changes to state law and then there becomes a conflict with county law, the county law needs to change to be in compliance with state law. And so that's something that we had to do. The Human Services Committee is chaired by Jeff Brace, Commissioner Brace. And one of the big things that we've been looking at is the Magellan Behavioral Health for Managed Care organization. The program, Health Choices, is a program that offers medically necessary mental health and drug and alcohol services to medical assistance eligible children and adults. So we have an administrator that handles managing those services, and it came time to look at that contract again. And so this is one thing that we have been spending a lot of time in our meetings talking about, and hearing from citizens who are concerned about the services to their children who suffer from with some mental health issues and different things like that. The Intergovernmental and Appointments Committee is chaired by Commissioner Lisa Scheller. And as you would think from the title, it involves reviewing all the appointments to a variety of boards. Pretty much any, as Brad mentioned earlier, any appointment that is made comes before the board for review and approval. One of the big changes, I guess, that was made this past year was to the LCA board. It used to be a 7-member board, but a change was made. LCA is the Lehigh County Authority, and the change that was made from a 7-member board to a 9-member board. So that's a change that was made this past year. Brad, did you want to comment any more about? No. Okay. He had been the chair of the Intergovernmental Appointments Committee during 2014 before he became chair of the Board of Commissioners, so I wanted to see if you had anything to add. Oh, you could add something. Okay.
What we've done, which is a little bit of a change in the procedure or the way that the board has conducted their responsibilities in the past, is we're taking a close look at some of the more significant boards, one being the Airport Authority, as we have up there, Lehigh County Authority, LANTA, the Planning Commission. And we want to make sure that we understand what the person's background is, why are they interested in the position, and probably more importantly, how does the addition of that person to that particular board fit with what the responsibility of that board are? What skill set are they providing? What experience are they providing that's missing from that board? and how are they going to work with potential board members in fulfilling that role, so that we're really taking a good, solid look at the candidates before us instead of just rubber stamping confirmations.
And I know that from time to time there are some boards that will have vacancies on them, and they're always looking for people who would be willing to serve on these boards and serve their communities in this way. And so there's a whole list. There's quite a few boards that the county has, and you can go online and look at all of them, and if there's one that piques your interest or you know someone that they might be interested, I know they're always looking for people who would be willing to serve on these boards. The Judiciary and Corrections Committee is chaired by Commissioner David Jones. One thing that they looked at this past year was the Financial Responsibility Program processing fee, which was in the Department of Corrections, and it was defining procedures in order to collect a processing fee from newly committed offenders. Another thing is, you may not know, but we no longer have a Lehigh County prison, but we now have a Lehigh County jail. So that was another change that occurred this past year. What's the difference? I'm trying to remember. That's a change that occurred before I came on the board. So maybe one of them who was here can speak to it better.
Yeah, I believe the way that Ed Sweeney, who's our Director of Corrections, explained it is a jail is what the terminology now used for sentences, places where you send someone for sentences that are typically 2 years and less, whereas a prison denotes a longer sentence. So that's why most of the county inmates, I think, if not all, are 2 years or less. So that was the reason behind that. There was no cost. Other than changing the sign, I think they just let the stationery run out whenever it ran out, and tried to do it in the most cost-efficient way they could. And
I think this is the last committee. Is the Planning Committee, and this is chaired by Commissioner Tom Creighton. So a lot of things that come before this committee are lease agreements, land sales, and the capital plan review is a big item that comes through this committee. The capital plan comes to us by the end of June, I think, and then we look at it through the month of July. And one of the big projects that was in this past capital plan was an ERP system. This is an enterprise resource planning system, and it's something that's used in the financial industry and in other things to help track some information and improve the ability to churn out reports and things like that and provide better tracking of information. The system we have now is called Admins, and it's from the 80s. So as you can imagine, it's a little old. Technology has changed since then, and everyone feels like it's time to upgrade to the new system. So this is something that came forward in the capital plan, and now a capital plan is something that's like a 5-year plan. So this is something that'll be worked on over the course of the next 5 years. So we hope to see this implemented soon. We already heard that they came to us with trying to remember now, an update. Oh, they contracted with the governmental association. What was the name of it? The GOFA?
It's the GFOA, Government Finance Officers Association. They're actually a worldwide organization for governmental finance officers. And they have a consulting arm, and the administration has contracted with them to help us put together an RFP for the procurement of the what is a very old finance system that was really advanced in 1980, but is really old today.
So it's a pretty major undertaking because obviously every department uses the finance system. So this is something that impacts the entire county operation. So it's something that they're working diligently on to implement. And that brings us to the end of my portion, and I'll turn it over to you. Get this.
Okay. The next slide, county government, I think our total budget is in the range of about $380 million a year. The bulk of that is pass-through money from the state for a lot of the human services. So when we talk about county tax dollar spending, that's the money that actually comes from the real estate tax revenue that comes in. That's in the area, I think, of $110 million per year. But out of every dollar that goes of county tax dollar spending, the bulk of it really goes to the law and order functions of county government. That's the courts, the prison, the district attorney's office. Significant part is the debt service for different county projects that we've incurred over the years. And then another portion that goes to everything else. When you look at law and order up there, one of the things I learned when I went door to door a couple years ago on the campaign trail was the question I got the most was, what does a county commissioner do? And I think the quickest answer that I boiled it down to was that the county does everything that you probably hope you never run into. We have a prison that hopefully you'll never go to. We have a court system that hopefully you'll never have to be there for, to go appear before. And, we have a coroner who's going to eventually come to see us all. So, but very necessary things, but, not that glamorous. So that's where each tax dollar goes, each county tax dollar goes. And if you break that down, the law and order section of it, it's broken down. A large part of it is the courts, the prisons, the corrections area, which includes the prison, district attorney's office, the sheriff, the 9/11 system, the 911 system, I'm sorry, and public safety, public defender, and the coroner's office. That's really the bulk of where that law and order dollar is going. I think is that. I think.
What do you have to move the arrow key? Oh, just this. Okay, is this on? I guess it is. Okay, so this is a summary. These are actual revenue out of the 2013 financial statement of the county. And as you can see, the general fund is a fairly large and substantial portion of the budget. The nursing home is over $60 million. The one that surprised me most, and I think surprises a lot of people, is the Health Choices program that Amanda talked about. That's the program that provides behavioral health services for low-income people. So we're spending $73 million a year on that program. By the way, that's all pass-through money. 100% of it comes passed through from the state to us. No county money in that program, but $73 million a year. Children and youth, mental health, and then there are a group of other funds that we just kind of summarized to get them to fit on one slide. But you can see we're around $350 million in revenue in 2013.
How do you evaluate pass-through money?
How do we evaluate it?
Yeah. That's a great number, or do you have to application for amounts each year?
Most of it is defined by the state. They tell us how much we're going to get. We do submit an application, but it's needs driven, and some of it's based on, for example, the Health Choices program. It's based on the number of people who live in the county who are defined as low income. So we get X amount of dollars to provide behavioral health services for about 50,000 people. Now, not all 50,000 people need that program in any given year, obviously. A much smaller number do, but that's how that number's determined. So,
If you could wait again, here's the mic. Amanda's slacking on her job.
Has that number, 73 million, has that number increased over the last few years, or has it decreased?
Actually, Mike, that's a number that is based on what we've actually received and what we've actually taken as revenue. This is one of the few programs that actually has a fund balance, so that most of these human services programs don't, but that one does. And there are years when a particular program will be funded out of health choices that might result in more than we received that year.
Or is it steady?
It's based on the number of low-income people. So if the number of low-income people has increased, it has increased. And I would guess that the number have increased. Mr. Muller's shaking his head yes. So.
Question over here. It's over here.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Somebody was pointing here.
Out of this total of 351 million approximately, what assessment is made by the commissioners as to the dollar amount that it costs the county for the illegal immigrants?
No, I have no idea what the answer to that question is. I really don't. I don't even know if they're reflected in the number of low-income people. We can find that out. Maybe Mr. Muller knows the answer to that. He's passing on that. Yes, John.
Just a minute, please. Just a minute.
John, you don't have to get up.
Does this have anything to do with the Department of Aging? Segment.
No, aging is in that other category. There is a Department of Aging in the county.
And the reason why I asked that question is I reported my sister twice for completely annihilating my mother. My mother turned her home over to my sister. And what bothers me is that we have such incompetent people in the county at some levels, not all of them. They went and interviewed my mother in front of my sister twice. And since my mother has passed away, but it was so pathetic. I had my hands tied behind me, but I was so frustrated because, who's checking the checker? I mean, do we have any way in government where we're finding who's competent in doing what they do as their jobs? I mean, does anybody? I mean, you have no idea how this brought me to my knees, and I'm not an easy guy to go to my knees. But it was so pathetic. For my mother, they interviewed my mother in front of her sister twice, and I asked them, please don't do that. And she was willing to meet alone, but they wouldn't do it. So, and that was not under.
Doesn't sound like the smartest thing.
Our president executive, I want to tell you that.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like the smartest thing to do. And we do have people come before us at our county board meetings who have specific concerns or complaints. And we'll work with the administration to follow up on that, and we'll pursue that. And there are a lot of good people in the county, but there are some people, obviously, that probably aren't as good as we'd like them to be, and things might slip through. So you're right, John.
Thank you.
But if anybody has a specific concern and you've taken it to the administration, or you've taken it to a department, the executive may not even be aware of it, the problem. But if you take it to us, we'd be willing to at least follow up on it. We've spent a lot of time in the last year dealing with this health choices program, particularly as it relates to children with autism. Evidently, there's a lot of controversy on proper treatment for children in that area. And so we've had a number of meetings. We actually were able to modify the agreement with Magellan, which is the company that administers that program, to require them to vigorously analyze and pursue that particular program, the services for children with autism. So sometimes we can make a difference there. Yes, sir.
A quick question about Cedarbrook. Tell me how much pass-through money you get out of the 62 million, number one. And number two is the number of residents that are at Cedarbrook and whether or not that's a stable number or is it a declining number?
Let me answer the second first. It's a pretty stable number. We're not 100% full, but we're close. Almost all the revenue is passed through. It's mostly Medicaid. We have about 80% of the residents are Medicaid. And the reality is that the Medicaid rate is set at such a level that it seems like it's very difficult to break even with the rate that we're given. We budgeted about $5.6 million, I believe, in 2015 to subsidize. Now, fortunately, and we'll talk about the next slide, in the most recent year that was completed, we didn't require as much money as needed, actually a couple million less, which was a good thing. Yes,
Yeah, the gentleman asked a very good question that I think a lot of residents would like to know. And I don't know if the commissioners or the executive actually has the figure, but I'd really like to see how much of the county budget is spent on illegal immigrants. I know there's several different organizations in the valley that are also interested in that. So yeah. If we can get that figure, I'd like to see it.
It's something we can try to look into.
Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions, or should we move on?
I have a very simple question. A couple things beforehand. I'm sorry, a couple things beforehand. He handed it to me, and it was like a lollipop. I was going to start licking it. But in any case, when you add it up, it was 100.1%. Who made up the chart that when you add it up, it's more than 100%? I've never heard of something going over 100%.
I don't know. Probably rounding.
Okay.
We could
I want to bring up something.
Sure.
I'm involved with a lot of organizations, and we had one of your superintendents from the Lehigh County jail come in up in Allentown. Very nice gentleman. And we talked, and this has been about 3 or 4 years ago. And somebody said something to him about something. He says, "Oh yeah, you're right." And he said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Well, we have 2 people that are in Allentown. Every year, they do something, they get arrested, and they come in and stay October, November, December, January, February, and March.
Yeah.
And they eat, they sleep, they're taken care of, they got the TVs, they got everything. Has anybody been in the county? That is a beautiful prison, okay? I've been in there. Or jail, prison, whatever you change the name to. But in any case, that is beautiful in there. It's almost like being in a hotel. Okay? And here, 2 guys, they know them every year, they do something to get put in there. Okay? And then we're wondering where the money's going to. All right? And, this might be minute to you people, but how many people are doing it? I'm going to give you another example. You go down south, all right, and you're driving down to Florida, wherever you're going, Georgia, and you see the chain gangs. You go through Georgia, Florida, do you ever see the streets or the highways dirty or loaded with stuff? Just come through any street in town here in Emmaus or go out on 29 or Cedar Crest. It's loaded with trash. And I don't know if you know it or not, but if you collect aluminum cans like I do for the Lions Club, right? They make a couple $100 every couple months and they give it to the kids for glasses and everything. Aluminum cans, you can make some bucks. You take it to the place up in Allentown, he weighs it and he gives you money. Don't you think it's about time we start looking at leaving these people that do things wrong, pay for their upkeep a little bit by cleaning the highways, the roads, whatever has to be done. No, you know what we do, the county, the state and everything else? We pay a company to come in. Couple $1 million to cut some trees down or do this or do that. We have people sitting in there all day long. Okay? They have a gym. They play ball. They watch TV. They even got computers. Have you been in there? They got computers at their disposal.
We're paying for that, gang. We're paying for that. The least they can come out and clean up the areas and everything and do something that's a benefit. Thank you.
That's
Do you have a question, or can you want to deal with that? Do you know if they're planning on doing something like that or anything?
That's a good question, and I know there have been some discussions along those lines during the budget process. Unfortunately, what happens is with too many issues, we wait until the budget process has begun, and then we've got so much to work through. We don't spend as much time as we should in an individual issue. But whoever's responsible for that committee, and who would that be? Would that be Dave Jones? Well, we'll talk to the chairman about it and ask him to raise the issue.
Now we got a question back here first.
Yes, go ahead.
Along that line, in Pennsylvania, it costs about 200% more to incarcerate somebody than it does to put them through college with room and board. And I've done a lot of study on this. I was meeting with Doug Reichley before he became a judge while he was still in the state, and I was actually writing a bill and counseling with Doug and a couple of others in regards to bringing back the Civilian Conservation Corps. I'm committed to the idea that we can do better with the broken prison model that we have, and you all have heard the numbers. The reality is that our public park system in America came from the Civilian Conservation Corps. Our culverts, our waterways, all came from the Civilian Conservation Corps. Now, I know that with our unionized labor forces in municipalities, you would have a lot of fighting and a lot of striking and a lot of BS, okay? But what I was proposing with the bill that I was writing, and I really need to get back to it, but to go back to doing CASA, like Community Assisted Sustainable Agriculture, as far as growing food for the prison. You can rent land cheap around here, but the labor, okay? A lot of things like environmental type projects, okay, that we can do, picking up trash. There's a lot of things that aren't normally done, but we can be forward looking as far as some parks and things like that, like we did during the 30s and the 40s with those public works projects that were done, and they were paid a stipend, okay? But the reality is it helped the economy as well. Thank you.
Right. As a matter of fact, the county has land that we lease to other farmers.
If we can just concentrate on some questions and everything so that we can find out what they're planning, what they're doing, or things like that. We'll have afterwards meet and greet, and you can talk with them and find out more specific things like that. But if we could just get questions, thank you.
Yeah, anybody drive down Airport Road lately or whatever those cemeteries are? Do you see how it looked? There's about a foot of trash from up when you get on Airport Road all the way down to 22 just about. It's just laying there, blowing from across the street, wherever, and that is a poor sight.
Any questions?
Yeah, are you gonna get it cleaned up?
I'm not sure that's a county road, but that doesn't mean we couldn't provide some labor to do that based on the suggestions that have been made, so I think it's worth pursuing.
When Reichley was in office, he asked the same question about the roads. You know what he told me? He said the unionized state people will not let you work on there, that's their problem.
Well, yeah, I mean, the basic problem with the labor law in this state is that if you try to contract out even the most minimal service that the unions are currently doing, you have to negotiate that. You can't just do it. Now, if it's something they're not doing at all, that's a different story. So, we just want to summarize with this last slide. We've just received information on the 2014 fiscal year. The good news is we actually ended the year with a surplus. As you probably know, we've had a couple of tax reductions and tax credits, and some people were concerned that those tax reductions or tax credits may just drive us deeper into the hole with deficits. Well, at least in 2014 it didn't. Glad to see that. The budget called for about $7.8 million of money from the stabilization fund, which is but the county, by the way, has a stabilization fund which has $25 million in it. And that's kind of a rainy day fund. It's a don't touch it fund. But the budget called for spending $7.8 million of that in 2014. But tradition and history have told us that generally we're about $10 million off in terms of what we project and what actually happens. And you can see in 2014 that actually occurred. So we were pleased, and I think the administration did a good job to cause some of those changes. Cedar Brook didn't require near as much money. Labor costs were down. There were a whole series of things that happened that were good things. But for those of us who want to see the county as efficient and effective as possible, I think we're all pleased to see that. Yeah. I think the administration too, they made it happen. Yes, John.
I have to say, you guys are doing a great job, but I'm a former Vietnam vet attached to an Army Ranger unit, and I'm part of the mentoring program for the veterans of Lehigh County. And sir, I agree with you, the jails are pretty cool. I've been there many times. Is there any way that we can apply for a grant through the county for our veterans? Because we really, it's a real issue that most people don't have a clue of what these guys are dealing with coming back. And I'm very excited to be part of the program. And people, why at your age, you're retired, you don't have to do anything. But you know what, I really feel so blessed, and I'm an example for my grandchildren giving back to these veterans and know what America's all about. I really mean it. I get very emotional about it because I hear their stories, and it's really sad. It really is. And I'm asking you guys if you could find a way that we could call me how I can apply for a grant through the county for our program. I would really respectfully appreciate it. Thank you.
John, I don't know if you're aware of it, but the district attorney does receive a grant.
I know, but not enough.
Well, we ask him that each year, and he's told us he thought it was sufficient, but, and Mr. Martin has never been shy. I can tell you, anyone who knows Jim Martin knows he's not a shy man. But we'll push him harder this time to make sure. Thank you. Yes, sir. Take over here.
Yeah, the commissioners created Lehigh County Authority back around 1970 for a specific reason. They wanted, the suburbs to grow, and they wanted to get it done quickly. It seems like that job has been done too well, and there's not the necessity to have an authority like Lehigh County Authority again. Would you or any of the other commissioners consider dissolving Lehigh County Authority?
You know, as you know, when the authority was attempting to lease the Allentown system, and a number of us fought them on that. And I think I'm losing my voice here altogether.
Not sure where you were, Vic. Let's go on to the next slide, and basically this will close out the evening. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, Rob, I'm sorry. What did you ask?
We're dissolving LCA at this point now that its job seems to have been done, and you have a rogue authority without any political pressures on it.
I'm sorry. Are you asking if we plan on dissolving LCA? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
There's no plans to do that. No.
Okay.
Okay, if we move on to the next slide, which really closes out our presentation and opens up the forum for any other questions. What's next? One of the things that's next is that the Board of Commissioners has taken over the responsibility from the executive branch to negotiate with our collective bargaining units and also with what's called Memorandum of Understanding groups. Now, there's 5 collective bargaining units and 2 MOU, Memorandum of Understanding groups. And they're divided. One is actually contract, the other one is somewhat of an agreement. Of the 5 collective bargaining units, 3 of them are operating today with expired contracts. One of those bargaining units has been without a contract since the end of 2013. Both of the Memorandum of Understanding groups are working under expired contracts. So the Board of Commissioners is undertaking this significant initiative, and it's really, we've done that because of the lack of progress demonstrated by the administration in getting these agreements and contracts closed. And also, we would like to get a more direct understanding of what's driving the process and what is needed in terms of solutions so that we can bring these contracts to conclusion. Also, we're looking for a little bit of consistency in application of the interest of these particular bargaining units and Memorandum of Understanding groups. This is something that hasn't been done, undertaken by the Board of Commissioners since 1980s. So it's something that our particular board has done, and we plan to do a good job doing it, and we plan to deliver results both to the collective bargaining units and to the taxpayer as we respectfully enter into these negotiations and balance those 2 objectives. The next item, I think I can turn to one of my fellow commissioners. This would be, Vic, do you have one last breath left? Okay.
I hope it's not my last breath, but maybe my last breath tonight, but not permanently, I hope. My wife will be checking the life insurance policy, and she hears that. Yes, we have an ordinance before the Board of Commissioners, and it deals with the issue of managed professional services, and it covers 2 different elements. One is many of these contracts have additional years that can be extended in the contract, but currently that is 100% within the realm of the county executive. We had one particular issue and we were not pleased with the county executive's position on it. And we had to jump through a bunch of hoops to kind of stop it. So we thought, why not change the ordinance that makes it come back to us for extending the contract. Also, it requires an RFP process, request for proposal process for these services. For example, we've had a firm that manages Cedar Brook, the nursing home, for a number of years. We've never gone out to bid on that process. That's not the kind of service you don't want to pick the lowest bidder, obviously. You want to make sure that people have skill and ability and experience. But you do want to go out to bid, and I think experience has been, sometimes even the incumbent comes back with a lower price once they realize they have competition. So if the administration believes that an RFP process isn't appropriate for a particular service, they can make the request that we waive that. And if we agree, we can waive it. But otherwise, it would require a request for proposal. And it would require board approval to extend contracts beyond the initial term. I think that's summary.
We've got one more item. It's proposed changes to 911 fees, and Amanda's going to handle that for us.
So one thing actually that they've been maybe still talking about down in the state legislature today is the proposed changes to the 911 fees. The way this had been structured to work is that there are charges on your phone lines, whether it's wireless or wired, and that money's collected, distributed to the counties, and the counties use that to fund the 911 program. But it was found that the money being collected was not sufficient to cover the costs the counties were incurring in running 911. And so because of that, the taxes from the county were being used to then supplement what wasn't being brought in from the fees. So in 2012, the state legislature had done a study to look into this and found that there were several issues with the current system. And the one piece of legislation for collecting fees off of wireless providers was set to expire at the end of June 30th, 2015. So this has them highly motivated to find a solution that will work, and the counties are paying close attention to this because of our administration of the 911 plan. So I know that the House was looking at a proposal today, and there were 50 amendments proposed for that particular bill. So who knows what it looks like at this moment, but they're looking at raising the fee to, I think it was $1.65 last I heard, but that may have changed. And they're also trying to put into place better auditing procedures so that they can be sure that the telephone companies are charging appropriately for the fees and that the correct fees are being collected by the telephone companies and handed over to the state. So that's what's happening with the 911 fees. So if you want to talk to your state legislature about that, now is a good time to do it. They're looking at that. I think Mike will talk about the final point.
Yeah, one other thing that's come up recently is ongoing financial reports that both the board gets. We're trying to develop a format so that we can see clearly the budget picture on a month basis, but also that the taxpayers and residents can also have access to those reports through our, through viewing them online. We don't want something that's as cumbersome as perhaps the two-binder budget book, but something that's more readable but still useful. So it's we haven't quite found the balance yet, but that's what we're working toward as far as the ongoing financial reporting.
Well, that concludes our presentation for tonight. I would like to close by just mentioning to you that our board is working together very well. We are highly motivated to work on those policies which directly affect the finances of the county. And I think we're being very effective in doing that as we provide the proper checks and balances to the executive branch, as any good functioning, highly functioning board will do in the face of good government. So with that, is there any questions that you might want to ask us as a group or individually? John, you again.
When they redid our project, John, I'd like to get you away. We got a couple guys over here, and then we'll be back over. Sorry. I'm sorry.
Early on in the presentation, you mentioned the administrative code. Is that administrative code online?
It sure is, yes. The website for Lehigh County is www.lehighcounty.org, and there's actually a lot of information on the website, including current legislation, meeting agendas, meeting minutes. There's a lot on there, actually, and videos, yes.
Let's go, Roy. Here, I got the mic.
Arland. While Arland is figuring out that microphone, let me share with everyone that our meetings, including the committee meetings that Amanda talked about earlier this evening, are on our website as well. So if you are interested in a particular topic, you missed it, didn't have a chance to get down to the Government Center, you can always go online and take a look at the committee meetings and also the general public meeting as well.
Yes, on property tax elimination in the state. If it happens and when it happens, do you have an idea how much the county will save in their, by not having to go through the assessment process and worry about property taxes?
Yeah, Arland, I don't know how that's going to turn out. I don't even know that's going to turn out at all. But I do think that our last reassessment, if I'm correct, it was an investment of about $750,000, maybe up to $1 million, which is kind of a savings. It was done in-house by the county. If it were done out-of-house, it would cost multiples of that. But I would say, given the complexity of not having reassessed for 23 years, $750,000 to $1 million was probably as cheaply as we can get away with doing it at the time. It's not an insignificant amount of money, but that's about what it cost. Bill.
This idea that I've been talking about with various judges and work release people and people in the county, over several years in state representatives and Charlie Dent. I'd like to know if anybody or if you folks would be interested in hearing some of my ideas. It's been well thought through, and I'm talking about low-risk individuals, you know, and I can go through examples of what that would be. But what I'm looking to suggest here is a way that we can give taxpayers more for their money. And what I'm suggesting is if we could put together a meeting and think about it, and then you folks think about it, and if maybe we can implement something where we can cut some money off the prison budget, since it is 73%.
Bill, I like that suggestion. I'm not sure what our capabilities are on the county level, but I think we should explore them. I think we'd be interested in taking you up on your offer. I know Commissioner Jones is the chair of the Judiciary and Corrections Committee, but we don't have to stop there. We can engage the entire committee. So you know, let's get in touch afterwards, all right?
This is a really simple question. You might find it hilarious, but I was happy with my reassessment of my home and my other properties. I was wondering if the county has a program where they're going to reimburse me for the years that I overpaid.
No. Any other questions?
Yeah, we got some here. Actually, there you go. We have one here.
Yes, ma'am.
Getting back to our veterans, if we don't start treating them and giving them a better life, we will learn to speak another language. Thank you.
Amen.
This mic's ready to go. I'm all mic'd up and ready to go. I got one last question for you. Due to the circumstances in our federal government of Mrs. Clinton using her own server, are the county people that work for the county, including you fellows and everyone else, is all that information on public servers, and is it all accessible, or is some of it held privately like Hillary did with her 30,000 emails?
Let me take a stab at it, then offer the opportunity to fellow commissioners, but I can assure you of this. Any of the business conducted by the Board of Commissioners is subject to the open records law. So if we have documentation of communications, whether it's between commissioners or with the public and commissioners, or commissioners back to the public, a right to know request would reveal that. And at that point, it doesn't matter how it was communicated as long as it's documented. It could be personal email, county email, company email. They're all subject to right to know laws. How Mrs. Clinton addresses that, I don't really know, but that's how we would do it on the county level. And it wouldn't be unusual, actually. Honestly, it wouldn't be unusual. We've been given several right to know requests in our years on the board, and we respect that. As we conduct the people's business, that's what we owe you. So, any other comments?
You don't have your own server then?
Pardon me?
You don't have your own server?
Well, we do. We have a county email system, yes.
But not your own personal server?
Oh, I don't, no. It's up there somewhere in the cloud. Any other comments from the commissioners on that? Any other questions?
Good job.
The county commissioners' meetings that I've attended, I must say, are the most open processes of any government I've seen in Lehigh County, and you should be commended for that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Otto. I can tell you that there are many times when the decisions are made right at the dais, and it's in communication and an exchange with those people who are interested and willing to give us the input at the time. Many of our bills are 2 readings. So, being there for the first reading and giving your input, certainly asking questions, jogs our interest and motivation to finding those answers and helping us make decisions. I can tell you that we extensively explore the topics. We don't leave any stone unturned, and we challenge the executive branch where we feel that's necessary, and we challenge ourselves where we feel we need to do that as well. But thank you, Otto.
Bill, you mentioned the concern you had that dealt with the prison, possibly. I would urge you to come to a board meeting, make the request. As we said, it's David Jones' committee. David's a Democrat. 7 of us are Republicans. We have 2 Democrats. But we work very well together. I have great respect for the 2 Democrats. They're both gentlemen. They don't always agree with us. You wouldn't expect them to. But they're reasonable, they're logical, they're fair. And so I would urge any of you to, if you have a good idea, come down and talk to us.
I was very, very impressed with the last board meeting I was at. In fact, I shook everybody's hand how well you guys worked together. It was extremely functional. I've been talking to all the probation officers about this, at least the men that I know, and talked to several of the judges, and of course, men's work release. I've been in his office, the outgoing one. I haven't talked to the new one yet because I've hired men out of work release several times. And by the way, for you employers, it's a very good value, very, very good value. And a lot of those men and women can't find jobs because we're in a deflationary economy right now, okay? In other words, things are slowing down, and that is long term. So it's a very, very good value. But I think this is something that we have to look at. The model that I'm looking at is the Civilian Conservation Corps of the 30s and 40s. And most people don't know what that is. But I'm talking about helping non-violent, low-risk type people perform duties that would enhance the quality of life in Lehigh County and give taxpayers more for their money. So we'll get together, I'll meet with you, and I know you all, so we'll get together and we'll set something up. I'm going to try to find my notes because I wrote a lot on it.
Sorry. Any other questions?
I just want to say, Brad, I echo what Bill just said. I had 6 employment from that program. They're phenomenal. Yeah. Phenomenal.
You just got to screen them well, that's all.
Yep.
And thank you for doing that, John and Bill. I really think that's it's one of the callings, I think, at this point in time. And I'm sorry, go ahead.
I want to say something. What I've learned is that quality of life largely is derived by investing in other people for the right reasons. Exactly. Doing what you're doing, helping some of these men and women that are in work release, and so on and so forth.
Thank you. Any other questions? Well, again, I guess I would then say on behalf of Commissioner Vic Mazziotti, Commissioner Amanda Holt, Commissioner Mike Schwer, and myself, thank you for inviting us here this evening, and it certainly was a pleasure. Let's do it again sometime.
I'd like to thank everybody for coming, and as I said in the beginning, I'll turn this off just we're going to now have a meet and greet in the back. You can come up and talk with whoever you want. And actually, I didn't mention, but our executive, Tom Muller, is also here. And Ron Beitler came in later. So and Lynn Donchis is here too from school board. So there's a couple, elected officials that you're free to talk with. And now Josephine Sadrovitz, we'd like to honor her. If anybody knows it, Joe, can you come up here? Or we can come back here. Do you want to say anything by chance?
I just have a few words to say. And when a woman says a few words, you know what that means. I thank you all for coming, and I'm sorry to leave. I've been with this outfit since from the beginning. And I do appreciate everything we have done and what we are still going to do. We do believe in our rights in this country. Please, please help our veterans. Thank you.
Amen. Thank you very much. Come on back and partake in the celebration. Thank you all. Oh, there's one I forgot. One other person wanted to make one announcement about, if you want to step up. This has to do with the Common Core.
I'm hoping that some of you people might be able to help me. I have 2 grandkids that are in the diocese, and believe it or not, they use Pennsylvania Common Core. This petition that I have right here is basically asking the diocese to stop using Common Core. So any of you who would like to put your name down here, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
That's it. Have fun.